Good evening and welcome to the Tibet Center here in South Orange at 502 North Ridgewood Road. We will begin this evening with the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas, called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors in consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no object of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment.
Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge,
The mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed. Tadyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswaha. O Shariputra, this is how the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendence. Then the Blessed One arose from that Samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, "Good, good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice." When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. Now we generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So, let us recite Om Mara Patsanadi. Om Mara Patsanadi is the mantra of wisdom. Om Ara Patsanadi. Om Ara Patsanadi. So I'll do a rosary of Om Ara Patsanadi. Om Ara Patsanadi. Patsanadi, Omara 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 Patsanadi. Omara Patsanadi. So on the last D you say, you take usually you should take 24, 25, and you do 4 Ds for each seed. Omara Patsanadi.
Would you kindly please repeat that, the instructions you were giving? You were talking about groups of 4 to 21?
So one way of doing that
Yes.
is that you, for each bead,
Yes,
you say D 4 times.
yes,
So to do 100 Ds, you would have 25
right.
beads,
Right.
and for each one you do it 4 times. So you take a
Yes.
deep breath.
But we're supposed to be saying Omarapatana.
Sorry?
I thought we were supposed to say Omarapatanadi.
We do, and when we end the
Oh.
rosary of Omara
I
Patsaladis,
understand.
on the last one we take a deep breath and we go.
Thank you.
So that's meant to generate wisdom. And what do we mean by wisdom?
I don't know.
So
It's Manjushi's mantra.
it's Manjushi's mantra. Wisdom is the wisdom realizing emptiness.
Also of the 5 subjects.
Please,
Alright, dug a hole. Something
the
like,
wisdom of the 5 subjects.
something like grammar.
Wisdom should permeate everything. Every phenomenon that exists is empty of inherent existence. So you have the phenomenon and you have its emptiness. These are like 2 sides of the same coin. So every one of the 5 subjects, the subject is empty of inherent existence.
So we don't need to discriminate between them.
No. But we have to use discrimination in order to see that each of those phenomena, all phenomena, are empty of inherent existence. So what does empty of inherent existence mean? What is this thing inherent? What does that mean?
It means that if we look for that object amongst its parts, we should be able to find the one thing that is it, if it exists inherently.
So something's existing inherently means
It means that, I should have said also, it means that if it exists inherently, it should exist so amongst its parts or separate from its parts.
no, I'm not asking for that. I'm
Okay.
asking what inherent existence means. What does it mean for
Dependent
something to
arising.
exist inherently?
Not dependent on other things.
Mhm.
Non-dependent arising.
Yes.
So something's existing in and of itself. Something's existing not dependent on anything else. Something's existing in some kind of a findable, identifiable way. So we talk about this all the time. It's really worth exploring what this quality is that we then look for.
Is a rock inherent, or is it only dependent on us calling it a rock?
So those are the 2 options, A or B.
Yeah, I'm only giving you 2.
Might there be others?
Probably. Oh yeah. I just only know 2.
So what would it mean for a rock, given what we just said, what would it mean for a rock to exist inherently?
That it wouldn't be dependent on other things, but I guess the reason why maybe I thought of a rock is because it feels fundamental, and it's not like a chair that's made up of a lot of different parts, but I suppose a rock is made of a lot of different minerals, so maybe you could pack away it having parts also. But I would think of it as something that doesn't have parts, but surely it does, obviously.
Well, if you have a rock, you have this side of the rock, and you have this side of the rock, and you have this side of the rock, and you have this side of the rock. So they're all the sides. So the rock is dependent on all its sides.
Ah, interesting. I never thought of that.
But this is our perception. That depends on our perception of the rock. We might not have the correct perception of the sides of the rock.
But a rock is a mass. It exists as a physical object. And therefore it has its different sides. It has, I mean, if you put it in space, I think north is, I think, that way.
Yeah, I think so.
And so the rock, you would have the north side of the rock, you'd have the south side of the rock, you'd have the west side of the rock, and you'd have the east side of the rock.
This is the
But what does a baby see when it looks at a rock? May not see the same thing.
No, true. But whatever if the rock is sitting here,
Yes.
the rock that the baby sees,
Yes.
the baby, if the baby, he or she is standing here,
Mm-hmm.
the baby will see the north side of the rock, right? And may not see the south side of the rock.
Right.
Nikki, this argument it's the usual argument against atoms, but with a rock there may be a simpler way of putting it, of just like I can take the rock and I can smash it with a hammer and it becomes more rocks. I can smash those rocks with a hammer, at some point it becomes dust. If I take that dust, I put it back together in the shape of the rock, is it the same rock? Like, if I can smash the rock with a hammer and it becomes many rocks, then it couldn't have been one solid rock to begin with.
It was one solid rock to begin with, because
But it was made up of parts, right?
Yeah.
If I smash it and it falls apart, then those are its parts.
So when you saw it as a full unsmashed rock, it was a rock. And
Yes.
and your question is, does that rock have some kind of inherent quality of existence? And whether we are seeing it without smashing it, and keeping it all together, it has parts. If you smash it,
You see the parts.
it's no longer a rock, or it's little rocks.
It's more
rocklets,
rocks.
It's pebbles.
and
Different
then it's,
rocks.
and then it's
It's pea gravel.
so so sticking. It's the so that either way of doing it shows us that it is dependent on its parts, on its sides. A rock, this rock, the earth over centuries, millennia has moved, and in the process, pebbles or rocks have been created, or these sort of ground down to whatever. There are different kinds of rocks, and so it's dependent on its causes. It's dependent on its parts.
Right, right. It's dependent on it breaking for it to, like you were saying, like the earth shifts and then it makes rocks. So it's dependent on the earth shifting in order to create the rock. It's interesting.
So, does the rock exist inherently, or is it? Yeah. So, yeah.
When you finish, I have a question about something else.
Okay. So, understanding what a quality of inherent independent existence would mean is really important, because they say when you work towards developing a realization of your lack of inherent existence, the first thing you have to do is identify the object to be negated. In other words, develop a very clear understanding of what that quality of me would be. And then you look to see whether the owner of my parts, so different from a rock, just a rock is this physical thing. It has it has no feeling of I am a rock. Well, I do. I feel that, not that I'm a rock, but that I'm me, that I'm Nikki. And I have a very, I invest in that and I indulge it and it's sort of like what thrusts me through life, my wish to satisfy my desires and my wish to sort of protect myself from anything that sort of bothers me. So that quality of me has to be identified and then looked for. So identifying, really understanding what inherent existence is fundamental. Yes.
I'm sorry if this question is a little pedantic, but so when you asked what does inherent existence mean, if you were to answer that with that the object in that the referent in question exists by virtue of some sort of property or attribute or quality that identifies it uniquely.
So is uniqueness, you're suggesting that something's being unique is what makes it...
So like when we say a rock, right, I mean, when you say does that rock exist inherently, we're not talking about the class of rocks, we're talking about that particular rock, that
Correct.
particular unique rock. So like,
Differentiable.
yeah, like that it, so, I mean, of course you can also talk about the class of all rocks, but just like if you talk about a referent of a word, like what in Sanskrit they call dharma, right? So the is it the same, when you ask, does it exist inherently, is that the same thing as saying that there is some identifiable attribute or quality of it that uniquely defines it, or is that a kind of inherent existence?
No, I mean, you are unique. You are unique.
Yeah, I mean, every individual object is unique from every other one.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that doesn't suggest an inherent existence. To be unique doesn't exist. It doesn't suggest any kind of intrinsic or inherent or independent existence.
Right. The important qualifier that I was trying to convey is not that it's unique, but that there is an attribute that defines it.
Not from its own side.
But does exactly.
Well, that's what it means to negate it, right? So the meaning of inherent existence, the thing you're trying to negate, is that there exists an attribute or a quality that defines that object.
Well, there can be a quality that it defines that object, but is that quality... All right, so maybe we are sort of thinking in the same way, but if you talk about...
A quality of that object.
Such as, this watch has watchness.
Yes. That there's some findable thing that I could say that is of the watch, not in my mind of the watch or any other dependent, that is of the watch, that is a quality that I could say that defines that particular watch.
Its own essence.
Is that what inherent existence is, or is that a kind of inherent existence and there are others?
Well, what you have just said, what I would call the watchness of this watch, that exists not by my imputing it or not caused, but exists there in the watch among its parts. I recognize that the watch has parts, but I attribute a quality of watchness to it.
You do, not the watch itself. Correct?
Well, we gotta ask it. Do you?
So I guess my question is, when you say this quality of watchness, is it the same thing as saying that there is something you could say, there exists a sentence, an English sentence, that would define that watch in a manner that is independent of everything
Yes.
other than the watch. Is that what watchness means, the existence of this sentence?
Well, you're suggesting that I'm attributing a particular definition to this particular watch. But that's not, I don't think that is inherent.
Right.
That I can do. Every phenomenon can be defined. Every individual phenomenon can be defined. But it's not that there is an inherent quality of existence or intrinsic, independent quality of existence to that which is defined.
So when you try to define the watch, the simplest way to do so is to simply point at it and say that watch over there. And that works.
Works for me.
We identify it, but the mind that identifies it, all right, so I can look at the second hand, and I can say that's the second hand of the watch, right? And I'm identifying the second hand. And then I say the watch, which possesses that second hand, but the watch I see, I identify a watch. My mind is looking at this and identifying a watch.
Yes.
As soon as my mind identifies a watch, there appears to my mind a quality of intrinsic, independent, inherent
Right.
existence.
There's like the illusion that the watch exists out there independently of its own.
Correct. Of its parts, so that's something that since times immemorial happens automatically when we identify something as something. I identify the watch as a watch, the watch appears inherently to my mind. I identify the second hand of the second hand of the watch appears inherently to my mind. So it is when we are looking for this intrinsically existent quality, we are looking for the second-handness that exists not as something that appears to my mind, but that exists in the second hand. And you have the little point of the second hand. You have the different parts. The second hand is made up of parts.
So that's one of the analyses that you would follow, right? So like, okay, so I see the watch over there. I can start decompose. I can say, okay, there's a watch over there. Okay, where? Is it in the whatever, the face, the strip, the combination of
But
them?
no, now we're not looking for the watch. We're looking for the second hand.
Okay, sure.
Because as soon as the mind is looking at the second hand, it is the second handness that appears. I've sort of stopped looking at the watch. I'm looking at the second hand, and I see it as existing inherently.
So then what you would do is you would say, okay, does it exist inherently? I'm going to analyze it. I'm going to run the standard analysis. Okay, it's supposed to be the second hand. What makes it the second hand? That it's the longest of the hands on the watch. So it's not intrinsically a second hand. Okay, right. So those types of analyses boil down to showing that there is no way to define it from its own side with some sort of
When you use
set
the
of
word
properties.
define it, there's no way in which it exists from its own side.
Right.
In
Like I can't
some-
take the second hand,
in some
remove it from
sense-
reality, keep only the second hand, and
You
it
can
would
do
still
that. We
be
can
the
take the
second
second. No, we can do even that. We can do. When the fellow takes the watch apart, he can take that second hand. He can have that second hand.
Right, but then I show it to somebody who has never seen the watch before and ask them, is this the second hand or the hour hand of a watch? There's no way for
He'll
them
say,
to know,
I
right?
don't know.
You have to describe it.
So, however, the second hand, well, as you say, yes, we call it a second hand because it performs the function of a second hand within a contraption that has a...
I mean, in my mind, it would be because it is longer than the hour hand, is why I would call it the second hand, right? It has two hands and one is shorter and one is longer.
No, but the minute hand is as long. The second hand is a
Your
little
particular
thinner.
watch. Okay. but that's right. So that's the argument. Like, we are running that argument of like, okay, so what is it about it that makes it the second hand? And every attempt that I would make to define the second hand, you can always say that does not uniquely define the second hand of a watch. It could be something else.
Yes.
So what
and-
you're trying to negate is the existence of this definition that defines it from its own side without
From-
referring
so
to anything else.
from its own side. Don't worry about anything else that defines it from its own side, that possesses that quality of second-handness.
Okay, I mean, I feel like I'm derailing the class. I mean, the thing that's confusing me is the meaning of from its own side, that expression, from its own side.
Okay.
And I think some of the issue with inherent as a word is we can look at something like the watch and it's there, we call it a watch and it's inherent, but we're looking at it right now. And right now, we can say it's a watch, but now is also relative. And because the watch really isn't changing before our eyes, we think that there's this inherent watch that's out there. But if you look at that watch and you could live 1,000,000 years, that watch wouldn't be there in 1,000,000 years. It would be something completely different. Same with the rock. Over time, the rock that we're looking at that seems solid might have been parts of a living being might be in that rock. Because over the course of time, if you want something that's inherent, it has to be permanent, not changing, and that's how we look at it, because things really don't change fast enough for our minds to look at it any other way.
So, the momentary nature of watch is an important way of understanding its non-inherent existence.
Mm-hmm.
Whether momentariness is a valid reason for establishing the emptiness of watch, I'll let you debate, and
I mean,
you can debate with him.
permanence
He's
is a
very good
consequence of being inherently existent. Existing, if it exists from its own side, that
It must be
something
permanent.
exists in it only, and so will never change because it doesn't.
But the impermanence, definitely counters a quality of inherent existence. But there are those who would say that something can exist inherently and yet be impermanent.
I have an idea about that. What about the watch's relatedness to all that it has ever been and will ever be? That quality of its relatedness to all that it has ever been and will ever be. Can we say that
So
exists?
what does relatedness mean?
It means that this watch has a relationship with all its previous moments and a relationship with all its future moments.
So does the watch exist now at
Doesn't it?
7:30?
I mean, no.
By imputation. It exists by imputation.
It's going to become the question of whether the watch is the
I don't
continuum
think it
or the
ever
moment.
existed.
Right?
So that's what I'm
Are we calling it a watch?
I'm calling it my watch.
He's going a step
So
further.
there's no, we wouldn't sit here and say, is there a watch there?
Why? you have
But-
any
but
We would
doubts
call
about?
it a watch, but we
Well, we've
wouldn't.
been
That's
doing
what I
it.
mean.
It's with the knowledge that it
So
isn't
there's a
actually a
watch
watch.
there.
It's like shorthand.
It functions as a watch.
Yeah,
but there's
calling
no
it a watch
there.
is shorthand, but there's
So
no
the
watch.
fact that it functions, the functional quality of it, already begins to attack
Yeah.
its inherent quality. The fact that it is impermanent attacks its inherent.
But does it attack the relatedness with anything that we would associate with what we're calling this watch right now?
I don't think so.
I think that relatedness is part of that dependent arising.
It's like the point.
It's like, you know, you can never get to the now because there's, you know, a half a second, a quarter second, but every moment of that watch's existence, it's becoming something else. It's starting to decompose or break down and become something else.
Isn't emptiness referred to as a permanent phenomenon?
Emptiness is not a
Permanent
phenomenon.
condition.
So the emptiness of the watch may be permanent,
Mm.
but the watch which is lacking inherent existence, which is empty, is impermanent.
Is it correct to say the watch is changing moment by moment?
Mm-hmm. That's the Thomas's. And that moment by moment, the fact that the watch, there's a watch now, and then there's a watch now, and there's a watch now. The fact that each moment of watch causes the next moment of watch
Yes.
itself
Yes.
breaks down
Yes.
the idea that watch each moment of watch is the effect of the prior moment and the cause of the next moment, it means that the watch is dependent. And that dependent on the cause, which is the prior moment of its existence, negates its existing in some kind of a permanent or intrinsic way.
I could say the watch is the continuum of the moments, but then it's made up of parts.
That's a very good question.
The watch is the continuum of its moments.
The moment of watch is not the watch is the continuum of moments of watch.
Okay, but is the watch a continuum of moments, or is there a watch there that has a bunch of parts of in time?
Well, I mean,
Or that's just a figment of our.
sure, yes.
Okay, so all of these things, you know, as we sort of come at whatever this is from these different ways, is all really valuable. We are not wasting time by discussing this. On the contrary, and coming at this from these different points of view, coming to understand that the watch is impermanent, and therefore it can't exist in some kind of objective, independent way. It's dependent on a series of moments in a continuum. The watch is made up of parts. Therefore, how can it be independent? It's dependent on its parts. All of these things help us. And then you come to the idea that the watch only exists in that, I think this is something you were saying, in that I call it a watch, in that we conventionally refer to this as a watch. There's no quality of watchness there that intrinsically validates its being called a watch. Our calling it a watch is merely a convention. We can call it anything we want. A cat.
What about its ability to function as a watch?
That justifies our conventionally calling it a watch.
Its function as a watch is not inherently in the watch either. And I mean, that's kind of subtle, actually, I think.
So,
It can function as a watch.
Like, lots of things can measure time. But we don't call them all watches. I mean, we took my son to the MoMA the other day, and there was a clock in there made up of movies. It was 24 hours of
I
movies.
missed that. I wanted to.
It was awesome. It's,
Yeah.
it's a clock made of movies. It's a 24 hours of edited together movie scenes in which in each scene,
Yeah.
it's maybe
Clock.
30 seconds long, and there's a clock in every one that measures the current time. It's a clock that's made of movies.
Okay.
And so if
It
you go in
functions
the
as a
morning,
clock.
you see it differently from what you go, if you go different times of day. You see a different.
But it's always accurate. In every 30 seconds or so, there will be a clock showing up in that cut of that particular movie, and it's showing you the current time.
I see.
It's really cool.
Neat.
I gotta check that out. It's gone now, though, huh? missed
I
it.
don't know. We didn't go to see it on purpose. We just kind of showed. We wanted to show. We wanted to take some kids to the MoMA, and we just kind of showed.
I went to
Okay.
see it on purpose, and I
Okay.
got there too late, and they had closed it down.
Well, it was great.
Oh, darn it.
I don't know that
But
the
is
whole.
it still up? Oh,
I don't know. I don't know.
You weren't
It's
looking at
still
your
up,
watch.
it's ongoing?
I don't
I
know.
don't
We
know.
don't know.
But it seems to me that there's these core kind of statements that being inherently existent implies that it is permanent, that being inherently existent implies that it cannot function in tandem with anything else, it can't influence anything else, it is out there by itself in its own little isolated bubble and cannot ever interact with it. So I've always felt like establishing these sentences is basically tantamount to establishing emptiness of inherent nature, because they're so obviously not true about anything in our experience that, at least intellectually, if you can establish these sentences, like really truly establish them, right, you more or less, it's like 90% of the battle. So I actually think these sentences are pretty subtle.
It's a big part of the battle, but what we then have to do is actually apply them to the object, because and thereby begin to counter the innate way in which we perceive things, identify things, and immediately attribute a quality of inherent existence to things.
I think we're talking about two slightly separate things. You're talking about meditating on emptiness, more or less, right?
No, but you were saying that it's half the battle, applying these, thinking about these things in this way. And I'm saying we have to actually work on our innate way of interacting with phenomena.
I mean, I'm just talking about something even more basic. Like I'm talking about the step before that of just understanding what to meditate on, right?
Mm-hmm.
To like just understanding what is the correct thing to do when I do this, right? Anyway, I guess my question is like, am I wrong about this? That those sentences seem like the core point.
No, you're not wrong about this.
Okay.
Would that mean, Nikki, that only non-material things are inherent?
Nothing is inherent.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
But isn't time inherent though, because it
No.
doesn't depend on us?
It has three parts.
Nothing exists there in its independent way. Everything is dependent on, as he said, time is dependent on parts. Time progresses moment by moment.
If
Time
you're
is,
traveling at the speed of light, time is significantly different.
so you have that aspect of
But it's still happening
times.
no matter if I acknowledge it or not.
So here,
Sure.
a philosophical understanding of what time is. If time is the momentary advancement of
Deterioration, basically.
deterioration or advancement of us within.
Evolution.
Within, what would you kindly please explain that a bit more?
Sorry.
No, I'm not sure I can.
Okay.
It's maybe worth making a comment that in modern physics it is a major problem to define what time is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
How about just change?
So change suggests
That something
momentary nature of things. And so the reason that, let's say, emptiness is permanent is that that quality of lack of inherent existence of a phenomenon doesn't change moment by moment. That's a concept, that's an idea, and that doesn't change. That doesn't have the qualities of momentariness that, let's say, the watch has or the cup has.
What is the difference between inherent existence and permanence?
Inherent existence does not exist. There are many permanent phenomena.
What are those then?
You mean, is wind, like what's the,
No, wind, the force of, the
nature?
Dependent.
Yeah.
whatever, that is caused. Anything that is caused is said to be impermanent. But uncaused phenomena are permanent. Permanent in the sense that they are not momentary.
Right, they're
And
not
what are
subject to
those?
time.
An idea, a thought.
Okay,
Uh,
all right.
The number two.
we say that space, not space, made up of molecules, but the concept of space is that within which we
Okay.
exist. That idea
Yes.
of space is a concept, and therefore it doesn't have that momentary quality that the cup has.
How is a thought permanent?
So, a concept, it's not. We're not talking about the brain coming up with some thing as a result of
Right.
a process. We're talking about the idea of something.
Westerners call this platonic ideals, I think.
Okay.
Generic image.
Yeah.
We read of some of the great practitioners who enter into a state where there's no big and no small. Now, doesn't that kind of alter the concept of space?
So I don't know about this no big and no small, but you can, I suppose, the idea of big existing inherently would be countered by the idea of small. Or if you say that something is big and you say it's inherently big, you can just look at something bigger and therefore it suddenly
Okay.
becomes small. So
Okay.
bigness
Yes,
is dependent.
yes,
If it's dependent, it's not inherent.
thank you.
So, wait, where were we with? Where did we
Successfully
get this?
derailed you for 50
This
minutes.
is very, very helpful.
So, we began by my saying it's very important for us to understand what this inherent quality is that we are negating when we are searching for the emptiness of phenomena, the emptiness of self. Now, we've been applying this mainly to outer phenomena. When we apply it to ourselves, it's maybe even more interesting because it's not like this watch that has a bunch of parts, and I know that if I take all the parts out, I won't find a watch. You put them all together, and suddenly there's something that I identify as a watch. I put all my parts, I put my parts aside, all the parts. And there's still this me. Those are my parts, but there's me. And we have to actually get at that. We have to come to understand that if I really analyze, there won't. If we take all the aspects, where they talk about the skandhas, the aggregates that make me up, and one has to go through all those aggregates and come to understand that they are the basis for my considering
Conception of self,
of me,
of me.
and that there cannot be some me in addition to these. There, you can say that when you put all the parts together, that's me. But the me that I consider that exists when I put all the parts together, I have to. I actually, in my life as I live it, consider that it exists in some kind of inherent, intrinsic way, independent of the parts. This is my hand. There's the me, and this
But
is
this
my
is
hand.
misconception.
My thought.
Is it not?
Whether it's a misconception or not is something that you have to analyze. That you have to start looking for the me that considers that it owns the hand, it owns the different aggregates, and maybe you will arrive at a point that it's a misconception. You might say, no,
Isn't that the
there's
work
got to
we-
be a me.
But isn't that what we have to work on from us? Negating the idea of a me, of refuting the idea of a me.
Yes, but we have to, I mean, for me to say yes, you have to actually look and see whether there is, it has to be real, it has to be individual, it has to be experiential. And that's and that quality of intrinsic meanness is considered to be, or that my belief in that sense of self is what then causes me to engage in all the actions that make me miserable. So,
You're speaking then, is afflictions the same as kleshas?
yes,
Okay.
but
Same as what?
klesa is
Klesa.
the
Klesa.
Sanskrit
Oh,
word.
okay, I see.
She thinks Sanskrit. We
It
think
comes
English.
up a lot. Comes up a lot in the English texts.
Okay. So we were meant to be discussing meditation today, and so we'll.
were.
Hmm?
And we were.
We were discussing meditation.
No, we were discussing the subject that you are meant to meditate on. What His Holiness, and we'll do it next time we meet. But what His Holiness is presenting is the process of training the mind to remain focused on what we wish it to remain focused
Yes.
on. And in order for us to actually go through the analysis that establishes whether or not there is an independent self possessing the different parts, is something that we need a trained mind to do. And so what we'll discuss next time is the method by which you train that mind. And His Holiness presents the two kinds of meditation. So meditation is the Tibetan word gom means to familiarize. So the word meditation really means it's a familiarization with something. And there's the familiarization that takes place through this sort of careful analysis, coming to understand, think about, and arrive at a conclusion. And then there is, for example, if we are, you were talking about impermanence. So I exist impermanently. Each moment of my existence is the cause of the next moment of my existence, is the cause of the next moment of my existence. And if I think about that, and if I can see that because I am a product and exist within time, I am momentary, and that momentary quality is itself the quality of impermanence. Momentary is the definition of impermanence. And we can understand impermanence, we can see impermanence, we can get impermanence by understanding momentariness. That momentary quality of something establishes impermanence. And so if I think about the fact that I am momentary, therefore I am impermanent, and if I can understand that I am impermanent, I am momentary, and I can understand that everything that is momentary is impermanent, I can understand that I am impermanent, right? Those are the qualities of a syllogism.
Is it correct to say then that you are produced? You have been produced,
I have been produced.
and I've been. This is well.
So this process,
Yes.
relating this to meditation, this process of thinking about it and arriving at the conclusion that I am therefore, I am a product. And if I am a product, I am necessarily impermanent. Understanding that is analytical meditation. And it's a process that changes, that works on our mind. And we can arrive at the what is it called? The end product of this process,
Okay.
which is an actual realization of my being impermanent through this process. This is the process of analytical meditation. Then there's the process of focusing your mind without thinking on a particular end product, or if you conjure up all the causes for developing a quality of compassion, and then you settle on that, you hold on to that quality of compassion, you feel that quality of compassion, you hold on to that without the mind thinking this or that way. You simply remain focused on that compassion. That's another form of meditation. So in training the mind, we have to develop each of these. But initially, we have to develop the ability to get our minds to go where we want them to do. And that's the process of beginning to train the mind, which is what we'll talk about next time. Okay. So this has been quite a
Yes, thank you very much.
comment and then make me hand over to
Students should analyze Lama's words. Too many questions. An opinion. Michael Wick. Yes, students should analyze Lama's words. And the word, Michael, you say analyze. That process of analyzing is very important. So here we are analyzing together, and we can consider that we are analyzing Trungpa Rinpoche's words, His Holiness's words, Ling Rinpoche's words, the Buddha's words. And so this process of analyzing, as we've heard many times, the Buddha said, do not accept my words simply because I said them. Analyze them in the same way that a goldsmith analyzes gold before buying it. You scratch it, you bite it, and you scorch it. And if it is pure gold, only then do you buy it. So it's important to analyze. And when you say too many questions, I think that applying questions, it's not that we need to ask each other questions, though that's something that we do in the debating court. But we have to, in our analytical meditation, we have to really focus, we have to question, we have to really apply a questioning mind to arrive at a deeper understanding. When we debate, we're helped by someone else asking us questions, but when we sit and meditate, we have to do that questioning ourselves and thereby come to the result, the answer, and then remain focused on that in placement meditation. So thank you, Michael.
Add something. Maybe in these evenings trying to find a balance between listening to you, who have much more experience than you, and then also offering our own questions or ideas, finding a balance between those.
I think we do that.
Okay.
Is that, do you?
Is he expressing that he would rather hear more teaching and
Yeah.
less discussion?
I think he is.
And what is he?
Michael.
No, I'm
Michael
talking
is
about
not-
you. Are you?
Maybe we're a hair too, and I'm saying this of myself, talking too much.
No. The more talking we do, talking is good.
Okay.
We are discussing, and everyone's contribution, I think, is helpful.
Okay.
I think, but we're all anxious to learn as much as possible.
Yes, but learning is not someone telling you. Learning is exploring and coming to a conclusion on your own. That's
That's fair, yeah, okay.
okay. So we've been asked to pray for Jesse Colin Young, Anita Lowy, Vanna, or Yana. I don't know if it's Yana or Vanna.
I have it named as well. It's Teddy. It's a dog.
And Teddy. So, the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis and the treasure of merit. He is adorned with minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not strained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the moving where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma which is taught by the Tattva Bhagavad Gita properly in the Vinaya, it is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Jnana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit, and they are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity.
The protector who possesses great kindness,
The omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and wisdom.
I
Prostrate
prostrate
to the Tathagata.
Pure
Pure, the cause of freedom from passion. Virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore, the traditions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. The 8 verses on training the mind. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings, who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings, and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When the one whom I have benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering upon others. and learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. Now a prayer for the swift return of RINPOCHE. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Latong Tu Wang Doje Chang. Please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast ways of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech and the victuals of those one's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening, yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is it worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you to seek existence end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish-fulfilling jewel. Return as the glory of Losang Tempe, magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Srimati Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors. May you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. So this weekend, on Saturday at 1 o'clock here at the Tibet Center in South Orange, there will be a White Tara Puja, which everyone is welcome to.